Today we're hopping in the DeLorean and heading back in time.
This is a Back to the Future inspired look at the past, present, and future of retirement.
Join us for a special Halloween episode of Retiring Today.
Great Scott!
Whoa, that was heavy.
Great Scott! Marty, Jennifer, we're in 1980.
1980. We're back in 1980. Imagine it, guys. Growing Pains, popular TV show. Ronald Reagan is president. Family Ties is also on the air. New Coke was just introduced. And Time named the computer Man of the Year. So we're here in 1980, but what we want to do is talk about what the retirement environment looked like. So 1980 was the peak of pensions. 35 million private sector workers were covered by pensions, some 50 to 60% of the workforce.
Some people would say that was the golden age of retirement, where the pensions really dominated people's retirement income. The employer would contribute to the pensions the whole time. The employees wouldn't have to contribute. In fact, had very little retirement savings. They might have some CDs, especially in the 80s when interest rates were really high and the CDs were paying nice. And they have Social Security. So a large portion of, or actually all of most people's retirement income was coming from these employer-funded pensions and then also their Social Security income.
1980, I'm gonna say a word, and when we go to the future, it's gonna come up again. I just wanna tell you guys this, and the word is inflation. But if you lived in 1980, you remember this one because inflation was an all-time peak, 14.6% in March from the previous year before. Inflation went up. Gas prices went up 69% in early 1980, partially due to the oil embargo. A lot of people remember that. Marty?
Talk to anybody around from that time frame who was responsible for the expenses or the head of that household. Who doesn't remember going to the gas station? It was painful. Going to the grocery stores, it was painful. You're used to spending a certain amount to cover that lifestyle that you're living, and now it becomes a little bit less in your control. Somebody else is influencing what your lifestyle looks like and driving what your total expenses are from a month-to-month standpoint.
Speaking of driving, just think if we really did have a DeLorean, back in 1980, and there was one, you shouldn't really mess with the future, but if there was one little thing we could do, we might slow down inflation just a little.
Jennifer, plutonium might be available in every street corner today, but in 1980, it was not anywhere to be found.
Someone's been watching the movie.
He's doing a great job.
Okay, 1980, let's set the scene. Feds. The feds are gonna come back up again. I just want you guys to know that when we get back in the DeLorean. Also, the feds increase rates. So there's all this inflation happening. So what they do, they increase rates. Well, that did some stuff, maybe that was good, some stuff that was bad. One of the good things it did is started this bull market, this 1982 bull market run.
And that's one of the things that people today are worried about, because interest rates are increasing very much like we felt in 1980. And a lot of people are thinking, well, interest rates are increasing at a really steadily pace. The stock market's not going to like it. But all we have to do is jump in our time machine, jump back into 1980 and see from 1982 all the way up to 1999, the S&P 500 was only down 1 year. If we're using the index that included dividends, it was only down 1 year. Without the dividends, it was only down 2 years through that time frame. So interest rates, the Fed funds rate increased dramatically in 1981. And then 1982, it came down a little bit, or actually pretty significantly. And then 1983, it shot up. So it was a roller coaster of interest rates, increases and decreases through those early 80s. But the stock market was steady. And from 1982 all the way to 1999, it was on a tear. And people were making a lot of money in the market.
A couple more notable things from 1980. CD rates. At the peak in 1981, 18.4% APY for a 3-month CD. Again, when we go to 2022, we're going to be really shocked that that was ever a thing.
Be careful. You cannot give away too much about the future. Not any one woman or man should know too much about their destiny.
Doc is a smart man.
The time machine can be valuable and powerful.
Yeah, wouldn't we?
But we do not want to alter people's future.
No, We don't alter people's future, but it is good to look back. So one more thing about 1980 I want to talk about that's going to come up again is mortgage rates. They reached the highest rate in modern history in 1981. Do you guys remember what it is? I know the families, individuals we worked with have talked about this because they remember it.
14?
16, my research found 16.63%.
That's an interesting note. When we teach the Journey to Retirement workshop, we will ask people in the room. When we teach it in person, we'll ask people in the room. We'll say, and it's kind of fun because we'll position the question, do you remember what your first, when you bought your first house, what the mortgage rate was? And people will raise their hand, they'll say 12. And then somebody will say 14.
Sure.
And it's almost a competition of who paid the highest interest rate on their first mortgage, but it's also a good walk down memory lane of how much people were really paying for their debt in the early 80s.
And they say it with some pride almost.
Yeah, almost.
You know, knowing that the environment is nowhere near that, which obviously we feel really good about, but at the same time, they went through those struggles and they really value where what the environment is today.
Yeah, so if people today are paying 5 to 6% on their mortgage, and that feels really heavy, it feels like a lot because it is, comparatively speaking. It's been a long time since people have had to pay 4 to 5%, let alone 6.
Yeah, and just to summarize 1980, because we're not staying here, we've got some more time travel to do. What was it like to retire in 1980? And we'll get to the differences, but kind of set the scene for me, guys. What was it like then?
I kind of feel like if you think about it, it felt a little more standardized. That pension is kind of given to you. You aren't saving your own money, so the employer's taking over some of that control. You've got consumer debt that's extremely high, so you're having to deal with these really high rates and make sure that is a part of your plan. We've got safe money, right? The CD rate, so that's the trade-off of consumer debt being high, but now you can get really safe money and you can go get double-digit returns with your investment. So maybe some of the decisions were taken care of for you with the pension and not having to save your own money. And maybe it just felt, possibly a lot of people might feel like it just felt a little easier then.
I think standardized is probably a pretty good description. I remember my grandpa retired in the mid-80s. He had a heart attack at 55. And he worked for a major automotive company in Detroit, Michigan. And they said he could retire early. So they gave him an early retirement at 55. Under today's retirement rules, most people wouldn't be able to do that. But back then, they were dependent upon my grandpa and grandma's Social Security payments and then his pension. They weren't forced to save all of this money in an employer-sponsored plan. So the retirement was very much dependent upon the employer and then Social Security and very little on the individual. And that's really what made it more standardized. So people were working until they were vested with their pension and they could maximize their Social Security income or got it up to a level that was adequate for their lifestyle. But then something disrupts it, they were able to retire because it was the employer and the government and not necessarily their own savings.
I looked up some Back to the Future fun facts. Here's one for you. Ronald Reagan, of course he was president in 1980, he quoted the movie in his 1986 State of the Union address and he said, "Where we're going, we don't need roads." We're getting back in the DeLorean. We're heading to 2022. When retiring today, Back to the Future edition continues.
Biking, boating, relaxation? What's your retirement vision? Learn how to take the money you've worked so hard to save and turn it into the retirement of your dreams during our Journey to Retirement workshop. Like getting ready for a trip, getting to and through retirement takes a roadmap. This workshop is the first step to planning your 20 or 30-year vacation. Go to retirewithmerkle.com to register for our Journey to Retirement workshop this week.
Women face a unique set of challenges as they travel to and through retirement. From investments and caretaking to increased longevity and healthcare expenses, women face it all. How do you manage these concerns and also fulfill your retirement dreams? Join us at Jasper Winery in Des Moines for a fun and informative evening on Thursday, November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. This special workshop is designed for women, taught by women. Register today at merkleplan.com.
I'm never going to get used to that.
Well, here we are back in the lab, and we're going to do some calculations about what retirement looks like today.
Okay, we've got Doc Brown, Marty McFly, Jennifer Parker, and we're in present day. So let's compare present day. We just got back out of 1980. It's a quick trip, guys. It's a really quick trip from 1980 to present day. So pensions in present day. Did some research here, guys. About 15% of people, workers, have access to both a pension and an employer-sponsored plan, and only about 10% of people have access to a pension. Now, you remember, at the peak, back in 1980, about 60% of private sector workers, just to get the facts here, private sector workers had access to a pension. So point being here, guys, pensions are not what they once were back in 1980.
Which really takes retirement planning to a whole new level, because whether or not you're successfully able to retire, have the lifestyle that you want to live in retirement, is largely dependent upon you. And this is not something that you have to prepare for 1 year or 2 years prior to retirement. You really have to start preparing as soon as you possibly can. And this is why it's so important for the young workers of this world to start saving as soon as they possibly can, because even though 40 years seems like 3 lifetimes away, it's really going to get there before we know it, and we know that better than anybody.
Yeah, that's right.
The future comes really quickly.
And how often do we hear from our families, I cannot believe I'm turning 60 and 65. Where do those years go? So they do go by extremely quick.
That's right, and that's why there's different phases of retirement planning. What we just referenced is the accumulation phase. And then what we typically talk about on this show is the pre-retirement phase, which is where you have to really start to identify, where's your income going to come from? You might have a pension, if you're lucky. A lot of people do still have pensions. But how are you going to get your money from your pension, from your Social Security, from all the investable assets that you have? How are you going to make sure that you don't run out of money before you run out of time? And then how are you going to decrease your retirement tax bill as much as you possibly can? All of these different things are considerations today that my grandpa didn't have to worry about back in the mid-'80s when he retired.
Yeah, retirement is definitely more complex than it was even back in 1980. So let's go back to that. I mentioned it was going to come back up when we were in 80. I just knew it. I looked forward and I was able to see that we'd still be talking about inflation, because as we know, we've hit some high inflation times again. June of 2022, 9.1. That was the largest increase in inflation year to year in 40 years. Gas prices went up. They're coming back down a little bit now. And groceries, look at eggs. They're up from a year ago, chicken, bread, all of that stuff. So we're feeling inflation right now. And again, if you're getting ready to retire, that's something people are thinking about. It could even make them be rethinking retirement.
They say history has a way of repeating itself. And with our time travel experience, we're able to live that extremely high inflationary time period in the 80s, extremely high inflationary time period right now. It creates the uncertainty that we strive to help our families try to address as we work with them to build their comprehensive retirement plans. So many pieces, so many uncertainties of what that future holds, unless you've got the skills that Doc Brown possesses to help us go get all of those answers.
Yeah, and people are paying a lot more for their day-to-day lifestyle, but also what's happening is completely different than what we saw from 1982 to 1999 in the stock market, where the stock market's down significantly. So people are logging into their 401k plans, you're logging into your IRA balances, and you're seeing those down maybe by 20 to 30%, and then you're shelling out a whole lot more as you go to the gas station and the grocery store, and everything else that you're trying to buy costs more. So people are getting crunched. And there's a lot of people who still want to retire today in the midst of this, but they're second guessing themselves. And that's really the power of the plan, is it provides you confidence, even in turmoil like we're seeing today, that you should still be able to retire, have the lifestyle that you want to, do all the things that you've been dreaming of, regardless of these other factors that nobody can control. Right? We can't control the stock market, we can't control inflation, we can't control interest rates, we can't control what the Fed does, but you can control your retirement plan, and you can still find a way to retire even in the midst of this. And that's the importance of having that comprehensive retirement plan in place.
One thing you mentioned too, we started talking about this point right here about pensions, right? Not very many people have them, but the unique time frames we're in right now, we're in a market correction, but we're in a significant rising interest rate environment as well. So those individuals that do have those pensions, it's something that you're going to want to understand the impact of these rising interest rates on that pension, the present day value, the lump sum options, they are impacted by this current environment. So yeah, we're in what some people might say a little bit of a storm, correction, significant market correction, significant inflation, rising interest rates. The uncertainty is something that people are really concerned about, and we try to help them provide that clarity that they're looking for.
Yeah, let's spend just a minute more on the pension plan, because that's a big deal. There are people today who are looking into the future and saying their pension plan lump sum, if you just took the lump sum from your pension as opposed to the annuity payment over the course of your lifetime, your lump sum amount is decreasing because interest rates are going up. So there's people today saying, actually, I'm going to pivot from my original retirement plan of retiring next year or 2 years from now. I'm going to retire now. So you can take your lump sum at the bigger dollar amount, and then your retirement plan is going to look a little bit different, but you have more secure. That's an analysis. If you're in that situation where you have a pension plan, you're on the doorsteps of retiring, and you got notice that your pension plan lump sum is changing, that's something that you need to consider. And if you don't have that plan, build out your retirement plan so you know exactly what you're going to do and why you're going to do it, and you have confidence in doing it.
Yeah, you might be feeling some of this uncertainty that Marty McFly, Doc Brown, otherwise known as Loren Merkle, and Sean Honkamp are talking about. So there's an opportunity to talk to somebody about this, about your specific situation, and it's a retirement checkup call. You can schedule a 15-minute retirement checkup call by going to merkleretire.com, and you can talk about inflation, mortgage rates, interest rates, anything that's on your mind when it comes to retirement. So CDs and mortgages, we promised to make some comparison here. CDs, latest numbers I found on bankrate.com, 2.49% for the 1-year CD. Remember when we were back in 1980, guys?
Yeah.
The CD got us almost 15%. It was just a 3-month CD. 19%, almost 19%. It was a 3-month. That was a lot better as far as the CD went.
If you're looking for income, right?
Yeah.
If you just want to live off of income, off of dividends and CD interest or bank interest, that is pretty predictable income, and it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people are feeling really good right now about seeing 2.5%, maybe 3%, because these are coming off of a long, more than a 10-year time frame of having these low rates where we really didn't have any options, or really any good options for cash or safe, secure investments for a long time frame.
And this is part of the evolution of the economic cycles that we're going through. For the last 10 years, 15 years actually, CDs or bank money have not been a real adequate place to incorporate from a portfolio standpoint, but we're getting back there. It's still not there. But once we get through the pain of the increasing interest rate environment that we're in, because it is painful and everybody's feeling it for these reasons that we're talking about, once we get through that, retirees will actually start enjoying these higher rates, because you will be able to provide yourself with a fixed income that is going to be much higher with a lesser dollar amount because of the higher interest rates off of bonds, but also because of the higher interest rates that you're going to receive from bank products as well.
Okay, Loren, you talked about the Journey to Retirement workshop. I've got 2 questions about the workshop. Are you Doc Brown or Loren Merkle in those workshops? And what are you, as the professor of kind of retirement here in this scenario, what can people learn?
Yeah, first of all, I'm Loren Merkle, certified financial planner Loren Merkle, not certified crazy Doc Brown.
Okay, eccentric.
Both ways. Yes, both ways. And what we do is we talk through different retirement planning decisions you're going to have to make, and we make it through a hypothetical couple, John and Sue. They have some very specific goals that they're trying to achieve. One of those goals is they want to retire, both of them at the age of 65 together. And then Sue has very specific goals she wants to accomplish, John also, and we show you strategies that they implement. Basically, we build their retirement plan to show how they're going to get income, how they're going to maximize Social Security, how they're going to mitigate taxes. And you might have different goals than John and Sue, that's fine. Everybody's plan is customized, but you're going to be able to take away from their specific strategies that you can implement to make your retirement vision come true.
Okay, a little more information about how to sign up for those Journey to Retirement workshops. But first, a Back to the Future fun fact. Okay, guys, in some early drafts of the movie, the DeLorean, as we now know today as the iconic DeLorean, was actually more like a refrigerator. It was a giant metal cube. I'm glad that we get to go back into the DeLorean one more time. Guess where we're going?
Where are we going?
What's the name of the movie?
To the future.
To the future!
The Merkle Retirement Planning Team provides personable and professional expertise unrivaled in this area. They include us in every step of the planning process. The peace of mind provided to us by the Merkle team allows us to fully enjoy this special time of our lives. Instead of feeling snakebit, we feel confident that with the Merkle Retirement Planning Team at our sides, we can navigate any challenge that comes our way.
Merkle Retirement Planning. Your retirement starts here.
Women face a unique set of challenges as they travel to and through retirement. From investments and caretaking to increased longevity and healthcare expenses, women face it all. How do you manage these concerns and also fulfill your retirement dreams? Join us at Jasper Winery in Des Moines for a fun and informative evening on Thursday, November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. This special workshop is designed for women, taught by women. Register today at merkleplan.com.
Well, this doesn't look familiar.
Where are we? My calculations were a little off.
We're in the future. The time is unknown to us, but it's sometime in the future.
Feels scary.
What about retirement in the future? That's what we want to get at. First off, what's the stock market doing? I want you guys to tell me now, so I go back to present day and make some good decisions.
Stock market is going up and down, and then up, and then down.
Smart. That is so smart. So we're comparing retirement, right? We're in 1980. We set the scene. We went to present day. Now, we just got out of the DeLorean, guys. We're in the future, and everybody wants to know, as you guys help people plan for the future, I would even say, how do you guys even do that? You sit down with a couple when they're 65. They might live to 95. How do you plan for inflation? How do you plan for legislative change? How do you plan for Social Security? I mean, that almost takes a little time travel in itself.
The one thing we know is that whatever we plan for 10 years from now, it's not going to look exactly what we planned on. So we have to use really conservative assumptions with whatever assumptions that we have to use. And we also have to leave a lot of room for the what ifs. And that's why within our plan, we have a lot of what if type of money. Let's take care of the things that you need, that you know you need to have the lifestyle that you want to have over the course of your retirement. But then let's bake in the what if stuff, because we do know that you're probably going to have some house repairs in retirement. You're probably going to need to replace a vehicle or two. That's that what if kind of money. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that we don't know exactly what's going to happen. If you need long-term care, if that long-term care is going to cost you an extra $10,000 a month or $15,000 a month. I mean, we got a lot of this future stuff dialed in, but nobody really knows what that's going to be at that point. So when we build out a plan, let's focus on the stuff that we know today. Let's focus on the lifestyle that you know you want in the immediate future. And then through the plan, we'll bake in the what if scenarios, because life is going to look different 2 years from now, let alone 10 to 15 years down the road.
And the good news is, Sean, isn't afraid of the future in the Back to the Future series or in real life.
Doc, Jennifer, nobody calls me chicken. I'm not afraid of the future. We live the future, and I know what having a retirement plan means, and it helps us not be afraid of the future. We never know what is going to be in front of us, but we help our families manage these plans. Building a retirement plan is not a transaction. It lives and breathes with our families throughout their retirement, so we get to feel like we are living the future with our families every single year, every single day, year after year. As we help you build that plan and manage the plan, we get to update it as life unfolds. And then that updated plan continues to keep us on that path on their retirement journey.
Yeah, and you talked about building in some assumptions. You're alluding to the fact that you build in some inflation assumptions. Now, there's going to be some peaks and then there's going to be some lower times. You build on some rate of return assumptions as well?
We do. We have to use those types of assumptions. This reminds me, probably 5 years ago now, I was talking with an individual, and he liked to do everything himself. And he built out his own retirement plan. And we sat down and went through our process, and it was in the second meeting when we built his preliminary plan that it looked substantially different than what he built. Because what he told me is that I'm 90% confident, maybe he was even higher, but he's really confident that he's not going to run out of money prior to his mid-80s. That was his goal. He just wanted to make sure he had enough money up until his mid-80s. The plan that we built said he ran out of money in his late 70s. And so we compared the plans, and the calculation he forgot to put in there was inflation. And he was like, It was like the light bulb flipped on. He's like, I completely missed the inflation number. So he was really grateful. We ended up working together, built him a plan that actually lasted out to 100. And so, yes, we have to use inflation assumptions. We have to use portfolio return assumptions, that we want to be really conservative on the portfolio return. We want to be a little bit aggressive, if you will, on the inflation assumptions, just to make sure whatever reality actually turns out to be, that you're going to be able to live the lifestyle that you want to, regardless of what the reality is.
Yeah, let's talk about the reality of learning. It's a reality. We're all in a lifelong learning process, and the Journey to Retirement workshops are a great place to take some of the things we touched on today, and there's some things we did not, and really expand on your knowledge of getting ready for retirement.
We have a lot of great conversation in these Journey to Retirement workshops. For anyone who's within 10 years of retirement or beyond, this is the perfect workshop for you. We walk through the 6 components of our planning process. We talk about the risks and concerns that all the families that we're working with daily are thinking about and are concerned about. We know everything that's going to be a part of your retirement future, at least the risks and concerns. We never know what your path is going to look like, but there's so much value in that. I was just talking with an individual just this week, and he went to a Journey to Retirement workshop. He told me how his wife and him took pages of notes. They scheduled a 15-minute checkup call the very next day. So I talked to him the very next day, and we moved forward. We were going to that connection visit, and they said just going to that journey, they knew that it was a sign. They knew they needed to have a retirement plan to be able to address everything that is a part of the retirement journey.
And part of what I love about the Journey to Retirement workshop is you get an idea of what goes into retirement planning. What are the components specifically and strategies that should go into an effective retirement plan, and you learn a little bit more about our philosophy and how we plan as well. So people can go to that workshop and say, you know what, guys, I love everything that you're talking about. I'm going to incorporate that into what I'm doing. There's really no need for you. Or they're going to say, hey, I love you guys. I love exactly what you're saying. Let's work together to build our retirement plan. But you get a lot more information about us, our philosophies, who we are, and also what goes into an effective retirement plan.
Okay, so we know what goes into an effective retirement plan. It's fun to talk to you about what goes into a retirement plan. I hope you kind of like our back to the future take on retirement planning. So guys, how does this all end for Doc, Marty, and Jennifer? How does it end?
Well, we have to go back to the future.
Let's get in the DeLorean.
Let's go. All right, guys, hang on. Based on my calculations, once this baby hits 88 miles per hour, we're going to see some serious shit.
Women face a unique set of challenges as they travel to and through retirement. From investments and caretaking to increased longevity and healthcare expenses, women face it all. How do you manage these concerns and also fulfill your retirement dreams? Join us at Jasper Winery in Des Moines for a fun and informative evening on Thursday, November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. This special workshop is designed for women, taught by women. Register today at merkleplan.com.